There was no inventor. There was not one person who was like his brainstorm and he made the bikes and he ran with it and da da da. There, yeah, there are all of these people who deserve credit.
If you're anything like me, you spend a lot of time in the woods with bikes, or anything with two wheels. Two wheels, some suspension, and a desire to explore, mountain biking has brought me and you some of the best times. So where do all these epic times and bikes in the woods originally come from?
There's no inventor of the bastard sport of mountain bikes.
Clunkin is taking one of these old junker bikes, putting 10 speeds on it and going up into the hills and having a ball.
Well, mountain biking as we know it, off-road biking for adventure, started in the 1970s north of San Francisco in Marin County, California. They were looked at as crazy, outlaws, hippies.
There were no rules because the authorities didn't know about us. It was wide open.
People thought we were nuts when they'd see us riding bikes in the trails.
These hippies, like Joe Breeze, Gary Fischer, Charley Kelly, and many others, started modifying their fat tire paperboy style town bikes for off-road use in the trails of Mount Tamaipais. Little did these hippies know that their hobby became the launching pin for the commercial mountain bike industry.
We're talking here about California clunkers. Clunkers, you see, are, from what we can tell, the newest California phenomenon. Actually began, it seems, up in Marin County.
But let's not forget the Rough Stuff Foundation and Geoff from the UK in the mid-1960s. Geoff realized that the only thing he could do was to build a bike that was in his head. This bike was a constant development and an evolution building upon previous bikes.
I had this fantasy that it won't clearly do everything a motorbike can do, but it could do a whole big chunk of what a motorbike could do. So much so that it would make a viable alternative. It was a constant process of development, evolution, trying things out.
This is the stuff.
Yeah, Pip, I got this. These are all these drawings I managed to save. 1977.
What did you want your bikes to do?
To carry me through the landscape with the little bit of trials thrown in for good measure. You know, the odd stream to ride through, a hill to climb. Maybe, you know, a long downhill and go as fast as hell as I could.
Prior to the invention of mountain biking, there was a bike boom. This bike boom in the 1970s was a result of more people realizing that bicycles were a healthy and viable mode of transportation in the face of riding concerns about the environment. They would discard their fenders, chain guards, and kickstands. Some bikers and riders even added front brakes and multiple gearing. They quickly realized the bicycles weren't suited for the mountain and trails they were riding. Eventually, they started racing down the mountain to see who was the fastest of them all. One of the veteran clunkers, Charley Kelly, organized the event. Repacking the grease in their hub after the end of the race dubbed the name Repack.
It's been estimated that there are probably no more than a couple of hundred clunkers in all of Northern California, and this race today featured about 40 of them. This is the fabled Repack downhill race, held for 3 years running now, and organized by a veteran clunker rider named Charley Kelly. Charley Kelly's the organizer of this event. Now, how did the Repack get its name?
Okay, the way it started was we used to ride down on these coaster brakes. I mean, you got to be on the brakes so much that when you get to the bottom with just a coaster brake, one brake on your bike, you're on it so much that it's just pouring smoke out of it. I mean, all the grease, I kid you not, all the grease is just turned into vapor, you know, and it's just pouring out the back. It looks like you're riding a 250 Yamaha with bum rings, you know, and you got smoke pouring out the back. Anyway, all the grease is gone. It's vaporized, and then you got to go home and repack your HUD.
So hence the Repack.
Hence the Repack, right.
Okay. Most of the racers ride up to the starting line in the truck, but some of the hardier souls actually walk or ride their bikes up the mountain in order to check out the conditions on the race course. Now, this is the actual starting line, the top of a fire road on top of a mountain here in Marin County. The finish line is 2 miles away and 1,300 feet below where we stand now. They go down 1,300 feet in the course of the race. It's quite a drop.
As a means of settling once and for all who was the fastest on the downhill, we thought, well, you know, we were road riders, we knew what a time trial was, and so we thought we'd just bring a couple of clocks out here and run a little time trial top to bottom, and then the question would be answered for all time. Well, as you know, you only answered it for 1 week. And a week later, some guys that didn't come out that first time said, you think you're the champ? We weren't there, you know, so somebody else wanted a shot at the winner, and it just got crazy. The thing is that once the thing got competitive, it seemed that people would spend any amount of money to come up with a secret weapon, you know, and so everybody immediately started modifying the bikes, you know.
Racing was very hard on the bikes. Building a bike was a developing process until they found the best type of parts to put on the bikes. These bikes were called clunkers.
When we were first riding these fat tire bikes, we had to do some modifications to them.
The problem at the time was the bicycles, they weren't suited for the mountain.
I don't think Schwinn designers were really thinking about us when they designed those early fat tire bikes.
I had a whole front end come off me on one ride, and the bike just split right in half.
And a lot of guys crashed bad.
Too much speed makes your bike harder to control and is especially dangerous when riding down a steep hill.
No, man, I just thought, man, I just wonder if it just broke my pelvis, you know. I mean, it slammed so hard.
It was obvious we needed new technology. You know, a multi-gear bike just totally made sense. In the beginning, it was part scavenger hunt and part black art.
Because the stuff was not made to fit, you know, and you had to file things and bend them. And
you guys think you got cool bikes? I'm gonna have the coolest bike, you know.
When Gary Fischer started putting 10 speeds on here, we thought, what the hell's the point? Who wants to pedal a bike uphill? The fun's going downhill.
Took that old bike and I put wide range gearing on it, put these little thumb shifters on it, put heavy duty braking on it. You know, that involved motorcycle brake levers and drum brakes. And I did this in 1974 in the space of a couple of months. And all the traditionalists really looked down on that bike, and they thought it was a bad thing, but I changed their mind when I was able to ride about 80% of the time, and you know, only wound up pushing 20% of the time.
People are saying, hey Joe, why don't you build some frames?
Charley Kelly asked his buddy, Joe Breeze, to build them a sturdier bike frame from scratch. Breeze's bike frame set off a revolution in design and usability in the bike industry. Everybody wanted in on this crazy new hobby in the woods. They needed their own mountain bikes too. Word started getting out. Kelly and business partner Gary Fischer started selling Ritchey built frames, calling them mountain bikes. Well, this was the first inspiration for specialized stump jumpers, also known as the first mass-produced and advertised mountain bikes. Next, millions took to the streets and trails on these new bikes. By the late 1980s, moto designs were starting to find their way into mountain bikes. From RockShox's suspension fork in 1989, full suspension frames and disc brakes were coming shortly after. Tension started to build between bikers and hikers of Marin County, as well as horseback riders. This led to the banning of single-track riding to mountain bikers. Independent road trails were built in response to create a flow-like experience, which is a network of trails and turns and features that easily challenges a rider into an experience of blissful state of mindlessness fun. The bikes of today are longer, slacker, stiffer, and more gravity-orientated, evolving from their clunker predecessors.
I hear them calling you the Fish. Why is that?
The Fish, just a nickname. Maybe it has to do with my writing style. I wiggle in and out of things pretty good.
Now, where did this start, Gary?
It started in Larkspur about 12, 15 years ago with some kids, but that's where I saw it start. It's really hard to say where it started because it probably started when men started riding bicycles 100 years ago, and they had nothing but dirt roads to ride on.
But how about this customizing in the sense where you put on the gears and the big knobby tires?
Well, the big hybrid about 5 years ago. And it's come a long way since then, and it's going to go a long ways.
The best time ever recorded for a repack race is 4 minutes and 22 seconds, achieved last year by Gary the Fish Fischer. But it's important to note that clunkers are not designed only for downhill races. In fact, some riders say the most enjoyable form of clunking is cross-country riding. They even have a saying that goes, "Clunking is best away from the cops, the cars, and the concrete." There's more to this, though, than just racing downhill. We're at one of the switchbacks now along the repack course. This is traditionally one of the spots where riders wipe out. You can see why.
It was a certain attitude that we could do anything we wanted. So it's totally thrilling, it's total exercise, and it's getting away from the cops, the cars, the concrete, and getting out here.